way too many of you are getting super comfortable bringing Trumpian type ideology here to Australia, while the rest of you seem insistent on remaining ignorant that that could never happen. Anyone who's opened a book knows full well how closely Australia follows the US culturally. You've got Musk up there doing a steak hail that everyone recognises it for what it is. Even the neo-Nazis in the US call it what it is, and people are trying to dismiss it, saying it's because of his autism. No, it's not his Auschwitzism. Protests all across Europe currently, including in Germany, because they're specifically saying, this shit feels familiar and we don't like it. You have German news outlets who cannot legally post a photo of his speech because you are not allowed to show an image of a steak hail in Germany. If they are recognising it for what it is, the population who knows this shit more than everyone, are you really going to be so arrogant to say they're wrong? On Inauguration Day, you had hashtags like Democrats, Kamala Harris, and Planned Parenthood, all mysteriously had no results. To Nazi Germany, you had very specific policies that started locking down everyone's media so that you only saw what they wanted you to see. The first rule of propaganda, get people to deny what they see with their own eyes and hear with their own ears. We're seeing that with what happened with the TikTok ban. Within 14 hours it was back, and all of a sudden it was being praised that it was Trump that did this. Then people are being asked to connect it to their Meta accounts. Then whole hosts of US citizens are stating that they can't see things about reproductive health, about abortion clinics, about the pill or other forms of birth control. We're actually telling US citizens what they're not seeing because they are actually having a lot of the information filtered in the US to the point where they're not seeing it. We've had Trump sue ABC for reporting on his sexual assault, and now we've got journalists being removed from broadcasts. A key rule of propaganda is that you only have positivity for the regime being filtered through these extremely heavily censored and controlled media outlets. So if you're not a part of that, you're gone. Have you taken a look at whitehouse.gov recently? Not only was their constitution taken down from that website, the video playing when you first enter that site, complete with the Hunger Games music playing over the top of it, a mass amount of executive orders have been introduced. Rapid fucking fire in this life. He's left the World Health Organization. Last time, he left NATO. He's left the Paris Agreement. He's rejoined this weird Geneva group that is against abortion under any circumstances. They have also put a ban on health reporting. So if anything's going on, such as the 40% loss of birds, particularly poultry, in Kentucky, we've got mass deportations. Cuba would not accept them unless it was done humanely. They even offered to send their own aeroplane. Native Americans are also now having their birthright citizenship questioned. The 14th Amendment that assures birthright citizenship is now being called unconstitutional by the US's own press secretary. Trump already reopening Guantanamo Bay, building new prison camps in Kansas County. There's a current Attorney General, Pam Bondi, who was once upon a time a lobbyist for the GEO Group. The GEO Group specifically built private prisons. Yeah. Where is ICE not? They're not in California, where known members of Russian crime syndicates have long overstayed their visas. You've got large swathes of Irishmen in Boston who have known connections to the Irish mob. The largest uninterrupted gap in the US border is actually with Canada. What this means for Native Americans, particularly, is that if that is literally your homeland, you can't be deported anywhere, but you're still illegal. You end up arrested for being illegal anyway, but they can't deport you anywhere. So you end up in detention camps. An executive order that specifically stated your sex is unchangeable and it is whatever it was at conception, despite the fact that everyone is technically female at conception. All of the inspector generals were fired. The inspector general's job are specifically to investigate and manage crime, corruption, fraud within the Department of Justice, which now means the Department of Justice is running unchecked. Federal employees have been offered a 7-month-long salary, regardless of whether or not they come into work if they tender their resignation. Musk did exactly the same thing and then didn't follow through. No one got paid for that. You've already had senators come out and say he can't do that. That's Congress's job. He doesn't control the budget. Stripping DEI protocols, which a lot of people over there think is black and brown people who haven't earned their job, when it's disability access, when it's working rights for mothers and pregnant women. White women have been particularly vociferous about the whole DEI debate, despite the fact that we are quite literally the OG DEI hires. Joe Biden had been removed from the list of previous presidents. Joe Biden's name was then eventually put back, but thankfully people got screenshots of it so they could see that it actually happened. But this is very much a test as to what people will notice and what people will say they notice these things. Schools, fire departments, police departments, not what we meant by defunding the police. Medicaid, WIC, SNAP, veterans benefits, whole hosts of financial safety nets for the neediest in the country stripped away, with the entire Medicaid system going dark. They've now come out and said that, oh no, that didn't happen. It must have just been a glitch. It was very clearly a test as to what the American public will and will not accept. This federal funding freeze isn't just for freeloaders. It is also preventing any and all aid from leaving the country. They've specifically stated that nothing's going to anything involving HIV or AIDS assistance. There's a Tennessee bill for covenant marriage that prevents divorce unless there is proof of physical abuse, abandonment of over a year, or proof of infidelity. Currently in Indiana, there is a new bill that would threaten jail time if you report sexual assault but can't legally prove it. The Save Voting Act would allow the president to purge voter rolls. A report has come out that has showed millions of votes were purged from the last election. The only way you can get your vote back is by showing up with two forms of identification, and both of them must have the exact same name, which means if you're a married woman, it's significantly harder to get your vote back. The Tennessee Federation of Republican Women literally cited Hitler in one of their statements. Oklahoma bill on the docket that is actively looking to jail content creators and distributors of pornography. Now, surely that's not because so many women have gained financial freedom and independence through OnlyFans accounts, is it? From the Defense Intelligence Agency, where it's cancelling queer observance days, Pride, Black History Month, Women's History Month, Juneteenth, Disability Employment Awareness, Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage, Women's Equality Day, Holocaust Remembrance, and Martin Luther King Day. It also pauses things like resource groups and networking groups. Now, we've seen all of this shit before. And people always say, well, had it been me, I would have done something. You have the ability to do something now, especially when it comes to making sure that shit doesn't come here. We are already getting that kind of targeting here already in the Queensland Health Minister targeting trans kids. Trans people and gender non-conforming people were also the first people targeted in Nazi Germany. The first Nazi book burning occurred at an academic institution that specifically studied gender and sex science. It has barely been a week and so much has already happened. It is so important not to get bogged down in it because this is yet another totalitarian regime tactic. It's called shock and awe. You bombard the people with as much bad news as they can handle until they can't. And this breeds hopelessness and despair, which prevents them from fighting back. So don't despair. Don't feel hopeless. Get angry and fucking use it. Look at the 60s with the sexual revolution. You look at the 90s when marital rape became illegal and you had far more financial freedoms, ease of access to divorce. And now, as soon as there is a time when women seem to be making strides ahead socially, this thinness aesthetic becomes the peak beauty standard. Since they specifically want us weak and skinny, eat double, get jacked, wash your eyes, jet skip leg day. In the meantime, if you're looking for me, I'll be studying.